The wind howled through the dense jungle, carrying with it the smell of damp earth and the distant, terrifying roars of creatures unknown. The human soldiers stepped off the transport ship, their boots sinking into the soft, wet ground. They were on an alien planet, a place where life was savage, unpredictable, and brutal. Yet, the team moved with an air of quiet confidence. This was their job. This was what they were trained for. Nothing could scare them. Captain Aiden Torres, leader of this Special Forces team, stood at the front, his eyes scanning the dark horizon. His team was composed of the best, soldiers who had survived battles with otherworldly threats and creatures that would have broken lesser men. But today, they weren't here to simply fight. They were here to prove something. They were here to show the universe that humanity was not afraid. "Eyes sharp, everyone," Aiden ordered in a low voice, his hand resting on the grip of his weapon. "We don't know what's out there. Stay alert." The team moved in formation, their weapons raised, every step calculated. Their mission was simple: eliminate the apex predators that had been terrorizing other colonies on nearby planets. But the moment they set foot on the planet, they knew this was unlike anything they had faced before. The air was thick, heavy, almost suffocating. The trees towered over them, their roots twisted into knots, as if the jungle itself was alive, watching their every move. Suddenly, a deep rumble echoed through the forest, vibrating the ground beneath their feet. The soldiers froze, their eyes darting to one another, reading each other's silent expressions. There was no panic. There was no fear, just a shared understanding that this was the beginning. Aiden motioned to his second-in-command, Sergeant Elena Lee. She nodded, signaling the rest of the team to fan out, taking positions in the trees and underbrush. They were trained for moments like this. They knew how to move in silence, how to stay hidden when necessary. But they also knew how to strike fast, without warning, when the time was right. From the corner of his eye, Aiden saw something large move in the distance, a shadow slipping between the massive trees. It was fast, too fast for a creature of its size. Then the roar came, a sound so deep it vibrated in Aiden's chest, making his heart race. It was the predator they had come to kill, but there was no fear in Aiden's eyes. He stood taller, his jaw set with determination. This wasn't just a mission, this was a statement. Humanity had come to this planet, and they would not be hunted. They would hunt. The team moved forward, their synchronized movements perfect. They had trained for years for moments like this, fighting the unknown, surviving against all odds. They knew what this predator could do. They had studied its movements, learned its patterns, and now they would use that knowledge against it. As they approached a clearing, they saw it. The apex predator. It was massive, easily 3 times the size of a human, with dark scales that shimmered in the faint light filtering through the canopy. Its glowing eyes locked onto them, its sharp teeth glinting in the shadows. The creature let out another earth-shattering roar, a sound so powerful that it sent a shiver down their spines. But Aiden didn't flinch. He raised his weapon, signaling for the team to hold their fire. The predator had made a mistake. It thought it could intimidate them, that it could scare them away. But humans weren't afraid of fear. They were fueled by it. The predator lunged, moving faster than anything that size should be able to. It charged toward them, its claws extended, ready to strike. But just as it was about to reach them, Aiden's voice cut through the chaos. "Now!" In perfect unison, the team fired. The air exploded with the sound of gunfire, and the creature screamed in pain as the bullets slammed into its hide. The predator staggered back, but it wasn't down. Not yet. Aiden's eyes narrowed. "Elena! Set the trap!" Without hesitation, Elena activated a device from her belt. The ground beneath the creature shifted, and a net made of high tensile wire shot up, wrapping around the predator's legs, bringing it crashing to the ground. The beast snarled, trying to break free, but the humans were already moving in, their weapons trained on the creature's vital points. The predator struggled, but the humans were relentless. Aiden moved closer, his voice cold as he spoke. "You're not the hunter here. We are." With a swift motion, he delivered the final blow, bringing the beast to its knees. The predator, once the terror of the planet, now lay defeated before them. The team stood over it, breathing heavily, but unwavering. Aiden took a moment to look at his team, his eyes filled with pride. This is what humanity can do. We don't fear. We conquer. The soldiers didn't speak. They didn't need to. Their actions had spoken louder than words ever could. The apex predator was no longer a threat. It was a trophy, a symbol of human strength, determination, and the will to survive. But Aiden knew this was just the beginning. There were more dangers out there, bigger threats that would rise to challenge them. But the humans weren't worried. They had already proven their point. No creature, no matter how powerful, could stand against them. Humanity had arrived, and nothing in the galaxy could stop them now. The hunt had only just begun. The jungle seemed to pulse with an energy that was almost unnatural. As the team stood over the defeated apex predator, the air around them grew tense. The ground beneath their feet rumbled once more. But this time, it wasn't just the roar of one beast. It was the sound of many. The earth seemed to tremble, with the weight of something large, something powerful drawing closer. Aiden stood tall, scanning the horizon. "Stay sharp," he ordered. "This isn't over." Sergeant Elena Lee moved closer, her eyes locked on the thick jungle around them. "Captain, there's something else out there. It's bigger, faster, more dangerous. We need to move, now." Before anyone could respond, a piercing screech echoed through the trees, a sound that sent chills down their spines. It was the sound of something furious, something primal, calling to them. The team tightened their grips on their weapons, their muscles tensing. The apex predator they had just defeated was only the first wave. Something much worse was on its way. "We've already made a mess of their territory," Aiden muttered, his face hardening. "We've drawn out the real alpha. Let's give them something they won't forget." The team fell into formation once more, moving swiftly and silently through the dense undergrowth. They didn't know exactly what they were dealing with, but they knew it would be unlike anything they had faced before. Whatever this new predator was, it wasn't just a threat, it was a force of nature. Minutes passed. The jungle grew darker, and the oppressive atmosphere weighed heavily on the soldiers. The sounds of the creatures grew louder, closer, their roars reverberating through the trees. The air was thick with tension, and every movement was amplified by the haunting silence between the roars. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. The trees groaned and cracked as something massive broke through the underbrush ahead of them. A massive, towering shape emerged from the shadows. Its body was covered in thick, blackened scales that glistened under the faint moonlight. Its eyes, glowing an intense yellow, locked onto the team with deadly precision. It was the Alpha, and it was furious. The beast was larger than anything the team had ever seen. Its muscles rippled beneath its scales, each movement a testament to its strength. It bellowed a deafening roar, shaking the ground beneath them before charging directly toward the humans. Aiden didn't flinch. His soldiers didn't flinch. They had trained for this. The battle that was about to unfold was not just for survival, it was for dominance. "Open fire!" Aiden shouted, his voice sharp. The team responded in perfect unison, their weapons, unleashing a storm of fire upon the alpha predator. But this beast was different. It seemed to shrug off their bullets as if they were mere annoyances. It was faster than the first predator, its movements calculated and predatory. With a single swipe of its massive claws, it knocked two of the soldiers to the ground, their weapons flying from their hands. The team scrambled, regrouping as the Alpha stalked them, its glowing eyes never leaving their faces. "We need to think smarter," Elena yelled, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We can't outmuscle this thing." Aiden nodded, his mind racing. This wasn't just a fight. This was a war for survival. The Predator was far too powerful to take down with brute force alone. They needed to turn the tables, use its strength against it. "Get the traps in place," Aiden commanded. "We'll have to outmaneuver it." The soldiers quickly set to work, laying explosive devices in strategic positions, knowing they had little time before the Alpha charged again. The beast let out another blood-curdling roar, testing its dominance. It was circling them, sensing their fear, ready to strike. As the Alpha prepared to charge once more, Aiden's eyes locked onto its glowing eyes. He could feel the creature's rage, but he didn't show fear. Instead, he smiled grimly. The humans had one thing the Predator didn't: strategy. "Now!" Aiden shouted. At the same moment, the team triggered the traps. The ground erupted as explosions tore through the jungle, sending a shockwave that shook the trees. The Alpha Predator roared in pain as its massive body was caught in the traps, its movement slowed, its rage turning into confusion. It was momentarily disoriented, and that was all the humans needed. Aiden and his team moved in with precision, their weapons trained on the vulnerable spots they had studied in their data. Elena fired a barrage of explosive rounds into the creature's underbelly, where its armor was weakest. The beast screamed, thrashing violently, but it was too late. The humans had calculated every move, every countermeasure, and now the Alpha was on its knees, defeated. The jungle fell silent, save for the heavy breaths of the soldiers as they stood over the fallen Predator. Aiden wiped his brow, looking around. At his team. "We didn't just survive this time, we showed them exactly who they're dealing with." Sergeant Lee's voice was low, almost in awe. "We've conquered them, Captain. We are the apex." Aiden's lips curled into a slight smile. "We're just getting started." As the team stood victorious over the dead Alpha Predator, their minds were already turning to the next challenge. They knew this planet was just the beginning. No creature, no matter how powerful, would ever be able to stop humanity from taking its place as the true rulers of the galaxy. The hunt for the real apex had only just begun. The jungle was eerily quiet now, the only sounds the distant chirps of alien insects and the rustling of leaves in the wind. The Alpha Predator lay still before the humans, its massive form sprawled across the ground. Its glowing yellow eyes had dulled, and its monstrous body, once a symbol of terror, now lay defeated at the hands of the humans. The soldiers stood. Around it, their bodies bruised but their spirits unbroken. Captain Aiden Torres surveyed the scene. The battle had been brutal, but they had emerged victorious. The team had done what no one else could, what no other species dared to do. They had taken down the most fearsome predator the galaxy had to offer. But there was no time to celebrate. The mission was far from over. Aiden turned to his team. "We've shown them what humans are capable of, but this planet is still a threat. We can't afford to stop now. Let's move. There's more to do." The soldiers nodded, their expressions determined. They had survived the worst, and now nothing could shake their confidence. Elena, who had been a step behind Aiden, spoke up. "What about the rest of the pack? We know the Alpha was just one of many. If we've killed it, they might come after us." Aiden's face grew serious. "That's exactly what I'm counting on." He knew the predators weren't done. They would come, drawn by the death of their leader. But Aiden wasn't worried. The humans had already proven that they could outthink any creature, no matter how strong. They had to continue on this path, show the galaxy that no force in nature, no matter how vicious, could stop humanity from claiming its place as the apex species. The team set off through the jungle once more, moving with practiced precision. Their steps were quieter now, more deliberate. The soldiers had learned to move through the dense foliage without disturbing the natural order, as if they had become one with the planet's rhythm. The fearsome predators they had battled earlier were not the only creatures on this planet. They were the top of the food chain here, but not the only players. There were other dangers lurking, watching, waiting for an opportunity to strike. A few hours passed, and the team grew more cautious. They hadn't encountered any more predators, but the silence was unnerving. It was as if the jungle itself was holding its breath. Suddenly, Aiden's communicator crackled to life. "This is Sergeant Lee. We've got movement ahead. It's big, very big." Aiden didn't hesitate. "Form up. We move now." The soldiers spread out, positioning themselves in the shadows. As they neared the source of the movement, it wasn't long before they saw it. A massive cave, half hidden by the dense trees and thick vines. The entrance was wide, the ground around it scarred by deep, heavy footprints. "It's a nest," Elena whispered, her voice tense. Aiden nodded. "It's where they breed. This is where they're strongest." The team readied their weapons, each soldier poised to strike. Aiden led them into the cave, the air inside thick with the smell of decay. The walls were jagged, covered in strange alien markings that none of them could understand. But they didn't need to understand the symbols. They needed to eliminate the threat. As they moved deeper into the cave, the sound of rustling grew louder. It wasn't just one predator, it was a whole pack. Aiden could hear them, their claws scraping against the stone, their deep, guttural growls echoing through the narrow passageways. The hairs on the back of his neck stood on end, but he didn't flinch. He wasn't afraid. They weren't afraid. The soldiers crouched low, moving as quietly as shadows. The light from their flashlights flickered against the cold stone walls, casting long, eerie shadows that seemed to dance. And then they saw them, large, hulking figures, easily 10 feet tall, prowling in the darkness. These weren't the apex predators they had already defeated. These were something different, something more deadly. These were the young, the next generation. And they were angry. The leader of the pack, an even larger creature with eyes like molten lava, stepped forward, its bared teeth flashing in the dim light. Its presence was overwhelming, exuding power and raw fury. The pack growled, pacing back and forth, clearly agitated by the intruders. Aiden's heart raced, but his mind remained calm. They had to act quickly, before the pack overpowered them. "Elena, set the charges. We'll create a diversion." Elena nodded, pulling out a small device from her belt. She slipped it into a crack in the cave wall, and a soft beep signaled that the trap was set. The rest of the team spread out, taking up defensive positions. They didn't need to engage the pack head-on, they just needed to buy enough time. Aiden raised his weapon. "On my mark. 3, 2, 1. He pressed the button on his wrist, and a loud explosion ripped through the cave, sending a shockwave of dust and debris into the air. The predators screeched in fury, disoriented and momentarily thrown into chaos. The humans seized the opportunity, moving in with precision, picking off the young predators one by one. The battle was intense, but as always, the humans were quicker, smarter. They didn't just fight the predators, they used the cave itself against them. Explosives, traps, and sheer cunning brought down one after another until the pack was broken and scattered. Aiden stood amidst the wreckage, his eyes scanning the dark cave. The humans had done it again. They had proven that no matter the odds, no matter the size or power of the enemy, they would survive. They were the predators now. "We're done here," Aiden said, his voice calm but filled with the certainty that only victory could bring. "Let's get back to the ship." As the team turned to leave, the sound of a distant roar echoed through the cave. It was a warning, one that the humans knew all too well. There were still more predators out there, but they didn't fear them. They hunted them. The jungle was no longer silent. The battle for dominance had awakened a primal response within the land itself. The ground vibrated beneath their boots as Aidan and his team made their way through the dense forest. The predators, once thought to be the undisputed rulers of this world, were now in full retreat, but not for long. Their blood had been spilled and the land was hungry for more. But the humans weren't finished yet. We've eliminated their nest. The young are dead, the alpha is gone, and yet... Elena's voice trailed off, her sharp eyes scanning the trees. This isn't over. The planet's waking up. We've made an impression, Captain, and I don't think they're going to let us leave. Aidan nodded grimly, knowing she was right. The beasts might be retreating for now, but there was something bigger at play. The hunters had become the hunted, but the real challenge was still ahead. There was an ancient force on this planet, something older and more dangerous than any creature they had faced. Something that had watched the humans from the shadows. The team continued to move, their footsteps quick and sure, as the sounds of creatures that once prowled the jungle grew faint. The trees parted, revealing an open field. At the center, something caught Aidan's eye, a massive glowing structure partly hidden beneath the thick roots of the trees. It looked like a temple, an ancient relic left untouched by time. "What is that?" Sergeant Quinn asked, his voice a mix of curiosity and caution. Aidan didn't respond immediately. His instincts told him this was no ordinary building. It was a relic from another era, possibly the last remaining link to the origin of the predators. As the team moved closer, the air grew colder, and a strange hum filled the atmosphere. It was almost as if the jungle itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. "This is it," Aidan said softly. "The source. The reason these creatures are here. It's not just a hunt. This is something much deeper." They approached the entrance carefully, weapons at the ready. The structure was covered in alien carvings, strange symbols that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly light. As Aidan stepped forward, he felt a strange pull, a sensation of being watched. The others felt it too, their hands tightening on their weapons. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath them. A low, guttural growl echoed from deep within the temple. Something was waking up, and it wasn't a creature. It was something far older, something that had been lying dormant, waiting for the right moment to emerge. "Get ready," Aidan ordered. "This is it. They're not just predators. This is their origin." The doors of the temple creaked open, revealing a vast, dark hall, its walls covered in strange markings that glowed faintly. The soldiers stepped, inside cautiously, their eyes adjusting to the dim light. The air felt thick, heavy with the power of an ancient force. At the center of the hall stood a massive stone altar surrounded by strange, glowing orbs. And on that altar, something stirred. "What is that?" Elena whispered, her voice barely audible. It was a creature, but not one they had seen before. It was humanoid, yet monstrous. Its skin was a dark, metallic black, covered in intricate, shining patterns. Its eyes were wide and glowing like twin suns. Its body was long and elongated, with powerful limbs and sharp, angular features. But what stood out the most was the crown, an ancient crown, sitting atop its head, glowing with an eerie, otherworldly light. Aidan felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't a predator. This was the true leader, the creator of the beasts, the one who had ruled over the predators, the one who had kept them in line, their god and master. The creature's eyes locked onto Aidan, its gaze piercing through him, and for the first time the captain felt fear, not for his life, but for what this creature represented. It was a force of nature, a being of pure power and destruction, and it had been waiting for this moment. With a slow, deliberate motion, the creature raised its hand, and the air around them seemed to crackle with energy. The ground shook again, this time more violently. The walls of the temple began to pulse with light, and the orbs around the altar began to float, their glow intensifying. "What is it doing?" Elena asked, fear creeping into her voice. Aiden didn't answer. He was too focused, too determined. They were facing the ultimate enemy. This was the final boss, the one they had been sent here to defeat. If they didn't take it down, nothing in the galaxy would ever be safe again. The creature's lips parted in a slow, deliberate grin, revealing rows of sharp teeth. It spoke, but its words were not in any language they understood. Instead, the very air around them seemed to resonate with its voice, deep and thunderous, shaking the walls of the temple. "This is the end of your species," the voice echoed in their minds. "You dare challenge me? You, who are nothing more than insects?" Aiden's grip tightened on his weapon. He was no longer just leading a mission. He was fighting for humanity's survival, for every man, woman, and child back on Earth. They had survived the predators, but this was something entirely different. "We are not insects," Aiden said, his voice steady. "We are humans, and we don't fear." The battle that followed was like nothing they had ever faced. The creature unleashed its power, sending waves of destructive energy through the temple. The soldiers fought back with everything they had: guns, explosives, traps, and pure willpower. But the creature was a god among beasts, and it fought back with the fury of ages. It controlled the very environment, bending the walls and the ground to its will. The soldiers were pushed to their limits, but they kept fighting. With every strike, they weakened the creature, bit by bit. Aiden led the charge, directing his team with precision. They had faced danger before, but this was the fight for the future of humanity. And in that moment, as the creature's power began to wane, Aiden knew something. Humanity had already won. Not through brute force or power, but through sheer, unyielding will. The apex predators had been the first step. This creature, it was the last. With a final, decisive strike, Aiden and his team defeated the creature. It collapsed, its body disintegrating into dust, leaving nothing but the echoes of its terrible reign. The temple fell silent. The team stood over the altar, breathing heavily but victorious. The world had changed, and humanity had proven that no force in the universe, whether predator or god, could stand against them. As Aiden turned to his team, he spoke the words that would define their victory. "We've taken the galaxy's throne, and now it's ours." The dust in the temple hung in the air like a heavy fog, swirling around the fallen creature's remains, leaving only silence behind. The vibrations from the battle had long since settled, but the aftermath was palpable. The walls, once vibrant with alien energy, now stood cracked and still, their glow fading into darkness. Humanity had proven victorious. Aiden stood in the center of the temple, his chest rising and falling with each breath. The weight of what they had just accomplished pressed down on him, but there was no time to rest. The galaxy had just witnessed the birth of something new, the rise of humanity as a force unlike any other. Elena, covered in sweat and dirt, approached him. Her face was tired but triumphant. "We did it, Captain. We took down their god." Aiden's expression remained steady. His eyes scanned the vast temple before him, the remnants of the ancient creature's power still lingering in the air. "We didn't just kill their god, Elena. We killed their reason to exist. These predators, these creatures, they've been controlled by that thing, by that force. Without it, they'll collapse. The galaxy will no longer fear them. We've shown them that we are the apex." The rest of the team gathered around, their faces a mixture of relief and quiet pride. They had come to this world as soldiers, but they left as legends. The universe would now know the true power of humanity, but there was no time to bask in the victory. Aiden knew that the battle for humanity's future was only just beginning. The predators they had destroyed were merely a symptom of a larger issue, a galaxy that was still divided, still filled with enemies. This planet was only one small part of a much larger struggle. "We can't afford to rest," Aiden continued, his voice firm. This victory, it's just the beginning. The galaxy is full of unknown threats. Others will try to rise in our place, just like those predators. But we've shown them our strength. We've shown them who we are. A hush fell over the team as they took in his words. They understood. The fight was far from over. They had defeated one enemy, but the war for humanity's future stretched far beyond this jungle. Elena stepped forward. Where do we go from here, Captain? Aiden turned to face her, a determined fire in his eyes. We return to Earth. We've got the message we came for, and when we get there, we'll be ready. The galaxy won't know what hit it. The team nodded in agreement, each of them feeling the weight of that responsibility. The task ahead was daunting, but it was theirs to bear. The universe had just witnessed humanity's rise, and no one, no creature, no empire could stand in their way. They exited the temple, stepping into the harsh light of the alien world. The jungle around them, once a place of danger and terror, now felt strangely peaceful. The threat of the predators had been eliminated, but the knowledge of what lay beyond this planet hung heavy in the air. As they reached the landing zone, the transport ship awaited them. Aiden paused for a moment, looking back at the world they had just conquered. The ground beneath him felt different now, no longer a place of terror, but one of triumph. This is humanity's future, Aiden muttered to himself. This is just the beginning. The ship lifted off, leaving the planet behind. But as they soared into the stars, they knew that this was a new chapter for humanity. They had faced the fiercest predators the galaxy had ever known, and they had emerged victorious. They had proven that no matter what stood in their way, humans would always find a way to rise. They would never be the prey again. As the ship traveled back to Earth, Aiden glanced out the window, watching as the distant stars twinkled like jewels in the vastness of space. His mind raced, the possibilities swirling in his head. They had defeated one of the greatest threats, but now humanity's true power had to be understood by the rest of the galaxy. The galaxy was not ready for the Terran warriors who had come to claim it. But they would be. "Captain," Eleanor called, her voice breaking the silence. "What happens now?" Aiden looked at her, his gaze filled with certainty. "Now we take the fight to them. We've shown the galaxy what we're capable of, and we'll keep showing them over and over again. There's no turning back now. Humanity is here to stay, and we don't fear anyone anymore." The team exchanged glances, and for the first time since they'd arrived on this planet, they allowed themselves a moment of pride. They were no longer just soldiers. They were the heralds of humanity's new era. As the ship streaked through the darkness of space, the universe beyond them was waiting for humanity to conquer it, waiting for the day when humans would no longer be the hunted, but the hunters. The Terran warriors had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same again.